All right, so Elon Musk, the wealthiest man on the face of the planet, is apparently trying to make a move to completely buy out Twitter and essentially take it under his unilateral personal control. So I wanted to talk about this for a number of different reasons. Honestly, one of them is that I've, for some reason, seen self-identified leftists even coming out and praising this as if this is going to be some sort of a substantial solution to the problem of over-censorship on some of these social media platforms. And that to me is just absolutely hilarious. But let's get into some of the details here, and I'll explain to you why I think that this is an absolutely terrible idea. So here from Common Dreams, they say, not good for democracy, critics warn as mega billionaire Elon Musk moves to buy Twitter. So some of the details from Jake Johnson, he says, news Thursday that Tesla CEO Elon Musk has offered to buy Twitter outright for around $43 billion, a fraction of his skyrocketing net worth, fueled growing concerns about the anti-democratic implications of allowing the ultra-wealthy to exert control over communication platforms used by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. And Robert Weissman, the president of the consumer advocacy group Public Citizen, tweeted that a gazillionaire treating a vital, if flawed, global communications platform as his plaything is not good for democracy. So, I mean, honestly, I think that should be self-evident. I mean, I don't understand how anybody, especially somebody who identifies as a leftist, could possibly think that it's a good idea for a literal billionaire, in this case, the wealthiest man on the face of the planet, taking unilateral control over what he himself calls the modern-day public town square. I mean, at face value, if you think about this for 2 seconds, if even Elon Musk is calling this the modern-day public town square, well, remind me of a time where public town squares were unilaterally controlled by a single authoritarian who has complete dominance over the entire town square. I mean, that's at face value a contradiction. You don't have a single individual owning the entire public town square, getting to determine what the rules and regulations of what people can say in that town square. That's not public. So if the lesson here is that we don't want, giant capitalist enterprises to have control over the public town square, how the fuck in any reasonable world could the solution to that be to, instead of having it in the hands of multiple different capitalist shareholders, to put it in the hands of a single shareholder who, by the way, again, for the 5th time now, just so happens to be the single wealthiest man on the face of the planet, who not only is a billionaire and exerts control in, extremely undemocratic ways in his workplaces and within the economy more generally and over our political system, but also a guy who has a proven track record of suppressing free speech and demonstrating that he doesn't give a shit about being a so-called free speech absolutist as he claims to be. So here from a Business Insider, they say, despite calling himself a free speech absolutist, Elon Musk has a history of retaliation against employees and critics. So just a couple examples here. They say Elon Musk on Saturday criticized Twitter for failing to adhere to free speech principles. That's fair, which he said fundamentally undermines democracy. So what is his solution to the undermining of democracy? Well, apparently it's to give himself complete control over this so-called democracy. Okay, complete contradiction, but they say the Tesla CEO, who has previously referred to himself as a free speech absolutist, has a track record of silencing critics with threats of lawsuits and firing employees who disagree with him. So first of all, nobody's a free speech absolutist, right? We would all like to think that in an ideal world, you want everybody to be able to say whatever they want to say, unencumbered by especially capitalist enterprises getting to filter that out. But at the end of the day, we understand there are guardrails to what can be said in the public square, right? In the case of, let's say, if you're in a crowded movie theater, you can't just run in and shout that there's a fire if there's not a fire and create mass panic, right? There's a reason why that is not illegal, or that is not legal, and that makes sense, right? You can't do direct threats of violence. There are obvious guardrails, and there's a gray area there, which sometimes it's really difficult to say, should we ban this person, should we take this type of content off of a platform? That's completely fair, and there's good debates to be had about exactly where that red line is, and I'm 100% in line with anybody who would want to claim that these social media platforms on Twitter or YouTube or any number of other ones, that they have crossed that line. I mean, you can go take YouTube as a perfect example, where channels like mine, along with all other independent leftist channels, if you rewind the clock 10 years ago to before they changed their algorithms, a channel like mine could have been growing at 100 times the speed that it is right now, because they essentially altered their algorithms to serve the interests of their capitalist shareholders, to basically shove down in the algorithms what they deem to be too risky for advertisers, like content like mine, where I'm talking about sensitive issues like Israel and Palestine or US war crimes or whatever the case may be. They altered their algorithms to promote channels like Fox News and CNN at the expense of independent leftist content. So So we've all seen this on full display, and obviously, as a YouTuber myself, as an independent leftist commentator, I'm not a fan of having capitalist authoritarian enterprises getting to pick and choose what is, accurate information. Obviously, they cannot be trusted with that, which is exactly the fucking reason why you wouldn't want to put this in the hands of a single billionaire. I mean, how the fuck are people not understanding this dynamic, and how, giving Twitter unilaterally over to Elon Musk would just exacerbate a lot of those same problems? But they give some specific examples of some of the times he's retaliated against the idea of free speech absolutism, as he calls it. But they say Burnell's video reviews, that this employee of his basically was doing reviews on Tesla cars independently, but they say Burnell's reviews contained only end user features and included footage of the car's autopilot disengaging, which caused Burnell to take control to avoid dangerous situations, including a possible crash. And he said, quote, "I was fired from Tesla in February with my YouTube being cited as the reason why, even though my uploads are from my personal vehicle, off company time or property with software that I paid for," he said in a video posted earlier this month. And they give another example here saying Burnell's firing is not the only example of Musk taking action against public criticism. In one instance, Fast Company reported that Musk found the identity of a would-be anonymous blogger who posted a negative stock analysis of Tesla and contacted their employer, threatening to sue, according to the blogger. And then the poster deactivated his social media accounts and stopped posting about Tesla altogether. And they give another example here. In another incident, a journalist who had been critical of the Tesla Model X launch event was called by Musk personally and had their order for a Model X canceled. And former employees have reported being fired for disagreeing with the CEO, for reporting racist harassment, or for simply being in his way. So listen, not exactly the guy who I would trust with conducting or getting to unilaterally decide, what counts as free speech. Clearly, he has a proven track record of really not giving a single shit about free speech if it happens to harm his own personal financial interests. But they give a little bit more details in this Common Dreams piece, saying Musk's offer, which he announced via Twitter on Thursday morning, came just days after federal filings revealed that he purchased a $2.9 billion stake in the social media company, becoming the largest shareholder. And Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal then announced that Musk would be appointed to the company's board, a decision that was reversed soon thereafter. And they say in a letter to the chair of Twitter's board, Musk, who is currently the wealthiest man in the world, his net worth having soared over 1,000% during the pandemic, wrote that his offer to buy the company for $54.2 a share in cash is his best and final offer, and if it's not accepted, I would need to reconsider my position as a shareholder. So you understand exactly what he's doing here. He's threatening the corporation of Twitter that if they don't allow him to take unilateral control and buy them out at this specific price that he's offering, then he's going to pull his initial investment of that $2.9 billion, the roughly 9% share that he initially had. So he's holding that over their head, knowing that if they reject his offer, which in all likelihood they will reject his offer, it's going to be very difficult for him to get all of the shareholders on board with allowing him to take this control. But he's basically threatening them and saying, if you don't allow me to make this move, then I'm going to pull my initial investment, which will tank Twitter's stock at least temporarily. So he's holding that over their head and trying to threaten them. But this again is not the only time that we've seen billionaires taking control over media outlets or over social media ecosystems. And I really just don't understand how people could think that a guy like Elon Musk could be trusted with this, when we've seen exactly how damaging this can be with other examples of billionaires, like in this case Jeff Bezos buying out publishers like the Washington Post. So I mean, just as a reminder here, Washington Post, this is back from 2016, ran 16 negative stories on Bernie Sanders in just 16 hours. So listen, I mean, the lesson here at the end of the day is so fucking simple, it shouldn't even need to be said. If you actually believe, as Elon Musk has openly said, that Twitter is the modern day town square and that people should be able to say whatever they want on it, well, sure, I would agree with that in theory, but if it's the public town square, then fine, regulate it like a public utility. Don't give it to a complete unilateral control under a single billionaire capitalist. I mean, it's such an obvious solution that it shouldn't even really need to be said, especially not by self-identified leftists. So I think this entire conversation with Elon Musk on Twitter, who isn't even a good poster. I mean, let's be real about it. He posts on Twitter like he's a fucking 12-year-old on Reddit in 2014. So he's not even a good poster. And on top of that, billionaire capitalist taking complete authoritarian control over what he deems to be the modern day town square seems like not exactly the right direction that we should be going if you actually care about protecting free speech.